One last prep before the Derby.
Trust the Profits is proud to be sponsored by Game of Silks. Go to silks.io to get in the game. Real ownership, real races, real rewards.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Pick 5 Player Show. I'm your host, Michael Pellerin, a.k.a. Horse Guy Mike. And today we're going to be talking about the late Pick 5 at Keeneland this weekend, April 13th, 2024. One last Derby prep before the big race in May. We've got the Grade 3 Lexington. Not even the headline of this card. We've got the Grade 1 Jenny Wiley. That's kind of the headline major race of this card. Lexington, we'll talk about that one later. Not known to produce many horses that go on and do well in the Derby, but it is your last chance to get points for the Derby for those horses who are kind of on the bubble. And we'll go into that a little bit later. But let's go ahead and kick off our late Pick 5 coverage with Leg 1, race number 7, the Grade 3 Giants Causeway. Going 5.5 furlongs on the turf. Field of 12 with one also eligible. I've got to love these turf sprints. Definitely seeing them at Keeneland. Surprised to see we don't just see a bunch of Wesley Ward, Mike Maker horses in here. But as a graded stakes, you're going to see some more experienced horses in here. First one I want to be looking at is the number 1 horse, Play the Music, for Mark Casse with Jose Ortiz. Coming off of a 5 furlong sprint at Tampa. Nice win in that race in the listed stakes there. And I think the 5.5 furlongs is going to help this horse a lot. That 5 furlong race there was closing into it, won by 2.5. So I think it's going to really appreciate the extra half furlong there. Raced at 7.5 furlongs at Gulfstream, won at that distance too. So I don't think distance is going to be an issue here. I like the confidence. Mark Casse shipping this horse up, getting Jose Ortiz on board, 5-1 on the morning line. One I definitely want to be including there. Moving to his outside, the number 2 horse, Bling, 6-1. John Velasquez, Victoria Oliver. So this horse, 92 Brisnet last out at Turf Paradise on the artificial, Turfway Park. Not known for producing a ton of great turf sprinters coming out of there, but I liked the Keeneland form too. Before that, raced at Keeneland in October, raced at Keeneland going a mile, and then raced in Keeneland before that going 5.5 furlongs. So at this distance, 5.5 furlongs at Keeneland, won that race by a neck with the 95 Brisnet. So when you're looking at horses in this field who have won a 5.5 furlong race at Keeneland, I don't think there's anyone besides this one. So love the experience that this horse brings from this specific track. Nice long layoff too. Has not raced since December. So a little bit of a question mark there. I think 6-1 is a fair price on this horse. So fair price. I love the experience at Keeneland. Coming off of the layoff, should be able to fire back there. Moving to a little bit further outside, the number 7 horse, Port Townsend, 20-1 on the morning line. I like this horse as a little bit of a long shot for Sherry DeVreaux with Brian Hernandez Jr. riding. Brian Hernandez Jr., great Kentucky jockey. Doesn't travel as much as some of these other, the Ortiz brothers, Gaffleone, Pratt. But when you're in Kentucky, he's one of the top ones there. 20-1, I think, is really great, especially coming off of back-to-back 5.5 furlong turf sprints. Those were both at Fairgrounds, one in December, one in March. First off the layoff from that December race in March, won with an 82 Brisnet in an allowance race, won by half a furlong. So I like that coming off the bench at this specific distance. I know it was an allowance race since it's kind of a big step up into graded stakes company, but 4-year-old filly, newly turned 4, so her first race as a 4-year-old, was able to win. It wasn't like a super decisive victory, was able to kind of close into it late, but I think there's enough speed in here to where she's going to get a good setup and should do well for her at 20-1, I think is a price worth taking. And the last horse I'm going to be including is the number 8 horse, Roses for Deborah, for Christophe Clement and Irad Ortiz. She's raced a number of times, but has not raced since November back over at Santa Anita, and that was in the Breeders' Cup. So we've seen recently these Breeders' Cup horses who are coming off of the layoff. They've been performing fairly well. Loved loved that race. Nobles won that race. This was that Grade 1 Breeders' Cup was a deep hole for Roses for Deborah to jump into. I think it's a little bit too fast, or too much too fast for her. So cutting back to a Grade 3, first off the layoff, had experience racing really good horses. You saw last year, she was coming off of 4 straight wins in allowance and in allowance races and a Grade 3. Went over to Parks, tried to run there, got third, still a 91 Brisnet speed figure, which is kind of equal or better than most of the horses in this race. Then fired back with a 90 in that Breeders' Cup. So the speed figures are there, has run consistent 97, 97, 88, 91, 91, 90. Puts it atop this field. The layoff's a little bit of a concern, but kind of a softer spot. If you think this horse is going to be running in Grade 1 and Grade 2 company the rest of the year, then this might be considered kind of a soft landing spot for a first off layoff. So Roses for Deborah, I think it's worth including here as well. I'm going to be fading the favorite Elm Drive. Not a huge fan. The speed figures 93, 93, 94. This never really raced outside of California with much success. Santa Anita Del Mar. I want to see horses who are shipping out and having success elsewhere. This horse has raced one time out of California since switching trainers and got third. So fading, I think it's an easy favorite to fade here. Not in love with it. Going 4 deep here. Hopefully we can get past Elm Drive and get one of these longer shots home. So moving on to leg 2, race 8, 100K allowance, going a mile 16th on the dirt for 4-year-olds and up. And I'm going to be going with the bundled pair, or the pair at top, Giant Game and Howling Time, both for Dale Romans. I don't think they're both going to race. I mean, they both have Martin Garcia listed as a jockey, so I don't think they're going to race. And if it ends up being Howling Time, probably won't choose it. But if it ends up being Giant Game's one that I want. And if I do end up finding another jockey for the other one, then I definitely want to be including both of them. But I like Giant Game. Giant Game's a front runner, E7 type horse, needs the lead. His last couple races just haven't been able to get there. At Tampa on the turf, couldn't get on the lead, finished well beaten 8th. But last year at Churchill in the Clark, couldn't get on the lead, 3rd place all the way around, faded back to 8th. Distance was maybe too much, 1 mile and 1/8. But if you go 3 back, allowance race at Churchill, was able to sit second, kind of go gate to wire in second, which was impressive. 94 speed figure that day, 91 in the Clark. So he's got the dirt speed figures to do it. You'd have to go pretty far back to his Cornhusker at Prairie Meadows, where he got 107 going gate to wire in that race. He had an allowance race right before that where he went gate to wire as well. So with only 6 or 7 or 8 horses in this field, there's a good chance that he could get onto the lead and have kind of a shake and loose type performance. A horse like Transact might also try to get on the lead. This is another horse that likes to go gate to wire. But I'd rather take Giant Game for the better price. Nothing really separates the two of them in my head. I mean, Transact's good. It's a gun runner, 98 two back at the Ellis Park Derby. But I'm going to be fading that one, including Giant Game. Howling Time's also kind of not one that I'd love, but I love if they're a coupled pair. I do love having both of them for one price. But Howling Time has shown some kind of flashes of greatness. And the Haskell had a 96, got 4th there. The Matt Wynn got 2nd with a 97. So Howling Time is not a complete dud, worth including, and especially if you can include him for free, essentially as a coupled pair. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think one of them's going to scratch out. Next one I want to be including is the number 3 horse, Frosted Departure. Again, has put up big speed figures in the past. Had a 102 in an allowance race at Oaklawn last year. Since that race in December, came back in January, had a muddy track, got 4th, and then came back in the Grade 3 Razorback with an 80 speed figure, got well beaten 10th, just was no part of that race at all. Kind of tried to push forward, just couldn't make any headway into the traffic that they had there, so kind of faded back. This is another horse that wants to be close to the lead. I think if it finds itself 4, 5, 6 back, it's just going to kind of give up. But if he can get a good break get out there, sit second or third. Going to be dangerous coming home. Has proven himself at the distance before. Loves going the longer distance. Should be one to include here. And then I'm going to be moving to the number 5 horse, Hayes Strike, 8-1 for Kenny McPeak and Brian Hernandez. Again, this horse does not have those exciting speed figures that those other ones do. Last out 85 in the off track at Fairgrounds, 80 in the slop, 72 on the good surface at Horseshoe Indianapolis. So getting to Keeneland on hopefully a fast track on the dirt, aiming for this kind of race with a jockey change. Anything can happen. I think 8-1's a good price here. Has been working out fairly well, but not anything to write home about. But eligible to improve. Those 2 races earlier this year, both at Fairgrounds, kind of off of a long layoff. So moving, because he came off layoff into a grade 3, then moved down to allowance race. I think they wanted to check him off on turf. Didn't happen. So aiming for the dirt. 3rd off layoff. I think it's eligible to improve here with kind of progressing speed figures. Could make a big jump here at a nice price. So those are the ones I want to be including. I'm going to be excluding most of the favorites here. Classic Catch just did not catch my eye at all. 2-1, really short of a price for a horse coming off of a 6-month or 4-month layoff, especially since that layoff, there was nothing really to write home about. With an 84 Brisnet beaten 8th, before that 87 Brisnet, 2nd place, both on Aqueduct. So this horse was having middling performances and then a long layoff, and you're going to be looking at 2-1. It was an easy fade for me. Same with the number 6 horse, Gilchrist. More of a sprinter. I mean, this horse has gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sprints in a row. Doesn't really like the longer distance, so you're getting 9-2 on a horse that doesn't like the long, or has very little experience at the longer distance. Maybe in that question mark category, but I'd much prefer taking the longer prices here. So go with the 3 or 4 longer prices here. Hopefully we can get one of them home. Next up, leg 3, race number 9, the grade 1 Jenny Wiley, going 1.16 on the turf for 10 horses here for fillies and mares. We've got some good ones here, and I'm excited to single the number 5 horse, English Rose, for Charles Appleby. William Buick is coming over to ride this horse, so love that confidence. When Charles Appleby sends his horses over here, usually, you would say, especially going all the way to Kentucky, probably just grab a local jockey. But if he has that much confidence to ship William Buick over here as well, he really likes his horse's chances. And I don't know if he's seeing this as a prep to keep this horse in America for a long time. I have to assume that's why he wants to run him over in New York later on in the year. So I like the confidence here. It's coming off of a fantastic win at Dubai in the Group 2. Got 2nd place, 2 back, in another Group 2 over in Dubai, or Grade 2. I'm not sure if in Dubai if it's a grade or a group. We'll say Grade 2. And then 2 wins, both in Great Britain last year in May and November. Came back off of that campaign to run in Dubai twice. I think Charles Appleby has a lot of confidence in this horse. When we see him ship over these kind of monster Euro turf horses, he beats our best most of the time. So Chad's got some contenders here as well. We've got Gina Romantica, who is the favorites here at 3-1. Has not raced since the Breeders' Cup. So I love seeing these Breeders' Cup horses come back in ambitious spots, but going straight to a grade 1 off of that is a little bit too ambitious. Gina Romantica might be good this year, but I think the waters are too deep with a horse like English Rose and a horse like Didia there. So Gina Romantica is one that I don't want to include yet. Maybe later on in the year, or maybe next out will be one that I want to grab. And then the number 9 horse, Didia. I'm a huge fan of this horse. And if English Rose wasn't here, I'd be singling Didia. But I just think English Rose is better pedigree, better experience. Didia's kind of going everywhere, has been racing. I think this is her 6th different turf track in America since she came here from Chile or from Argentina. So I like Didia. I think she's got great talent. I think English Rose is just a little bit better. So I'm going to be looking for value here. Stone Cold Single, English Rose. If you don't like English Rose, go with Didia. I don't think Gina Romantic is going to do much here. Could be wrong, but English Rose, Stone Cold Single for leg number 3. Moving on to leg 4, race 10, the grade 3 Lexington, going 1 mile and 16th on the dirt. Kentucky Derby points on the line here. Last chance to get points before the gates close. So we got a couple horses here that are kind of like on the bubble. So for instance, my horse, the number 5 horse, Hades, I think has 18 points. Probably not enough to get in the Derby, but even a 2nd or 3rd place finish here could push him into the gate. So we don't know how cranked he'll be. He doesn't need a 1st place finish. He just needs 2nd or 3rd, especially since he just ran in that Florida Derby 2 weeks ago. I don't know how well he's going to perform here, but I think talent-wise, he's got the talent to win this race. He won that Holy Bull really impressively. He was undefeated before the Florida Derby, and Fierceness just went. I don't know what the strategy for Hades was that day, to just let Fierceness kind of burn himself out and hope to power home. But it just didn't happen. He never got even close to the lead, was stuck kind of in the back of the field, 6th, didn't make any moves. Finished 5th, so still made up some ground from the stretch, was able to close into it, which isn't really his style. So I don't know, maybe we'll see a front running style from him today like he had beforehand, or maybe he'll just come from off the pace just enough to get up for points. Who knows? But I love Hades. I didn't include him on my pick 5 for the Florida Derby ticket, but I want to include him here today. The one everyone's going to be looking at is number 2 horse, the Wine Steward, morning line favorite at 5-2. This horse was kind of a dark horse pick for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last year. Had raced at Belmont, Ellis Park, Saratoga, and then ran in that Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland in October. Got 2nd, made a lot of waves in that race, finished behind Locked, and then I think scratched out of the Breeders' Cup. Something wasn't right, or things weren't going their way, so they scratched out, skipped essentially the entire Derby trail, and now they're coming back in this Lexington. You have to assume, Mike Maker's using this as kind of a jumping point for maybe the Preakness or the Belmont, not trying to get into the Derby ice cold with only 1 prep and 3 weeks of rest on 20 points. So even if he wins here, don't see him going into the Derby. I see this more as a prep for the Preakness or a later campaign. That's the only reason I'm not singling him. I haven't seen how he's done this year. We've seen a lot of those horses that looked great last year, Locked, Timberlake, kind of failed to live up to that hype. So we'll see. This is a good spot, nice kind of soft spot to see where he lands for the rest of the year. But I did want to include him here. And the last horse I want to be including is the number 8 horse, Encino. A nice deep closer with Florent Giroux, Brad Cox. Another similar story. This horse has been running at Turfway Park. Coming off that win, the John Battaglia there. Like to see the switch from surface, from artificial to actual dirt, to see how he takes to that. We'll see. It could be kind of a question mark here. You're getting 5-1. It'll probably be shorter than that. But if he performs well, kind of stick to dirt, stick to the Preakness pattern later on in the year. I believe Cox had a horse last year who did really well in the Lexington and went to the Preakness, or McPeak did 2 years ago as well. So Lexington, almost like it's not a Derby prep, almost like it is a Preakness prep. But if Encino doesn't do well, stick him back on either the turf or artificial and kind of just let him go there. But he is a question mark. He's got back-to-back wins there, good speed figures. Want to include him. So I'm going 3 deep here as we move on to the final leg. The last leg we're going to be looking at race number 11, leg 5. We're looking at 3 horses here. First horse I'm going to be looking at is number 1 horse, Pure Poetry. This is a pure gate to wire type. Has been in 2 races. First race at Ellis Park last July. Came back off that long layoff at Fairgrounds. Won a nice 57K maiden there with an 83 Brisnet. Only won by half length, but you can see the progression there. That was first off layoff. If we're going second off layoff, same distance here. You got all of the chances there. Hopefully we can get on the lead, getting Florent Giroux, Brad Cox, as we kind of move forward there. Other horse I want to include is the number 5 horse, Royal Majesty for Will Mott, Junior Alvarado. Horse debuted in Great Britain bred. Didn't perform well there. Came over to Gulfstream, won its maiden, and then immediately went to the Colonel Liam. That's kind of a question mark. And didn't perform super well. Got 5th place, 83 Brisnet, but now dropping down in class again. So Great Britain maiden to a maiden at Gulfstream, or to a maiden at Gulfstream, to a stakes race at Gulfstream, now back down to an allowance race. I like giving him a little bit of class relief here. He should be progressing throughout the year well, coming from off the pace, one I want to be including. And the last horse is going to be the number 9 horse, and that's Moonlight for Todd Pletcher and Irad Ortiz. This horse has just gotten some bad luck with surfaces lately. Last out was sloppy track at fairgrounds, muddy track, sloppy track, off track. First race ever was on the turf at Saratoga, barely got beaten by a neck. What I think happened is they ran that race at Saratoga on the turf, barely got beaten, came back in another race at Aqueduct that was supposed to be on the turf but went off the turf, and that horse won by 8 lengths on the off the turf track. So then they were like, okay, let's try this horse on the Derby trail. Didn't perform well. Now we're switching back to turf, which was, I think, their desired surface to begin with. And hopefully we can get back to that kind of style that they wanted to, now that they realize this isn't a Derby horse that they've got. And Todd's very smart about that. So I like the chances here. 4-1, Irad, Todd with the horse that's one big, moving back to a surface it likes. Moonlight's going to be my top choice here as we move on to our ticket. So here we go. Here's a look at our ticket. We've got race 7, the 1, 2, 7, 8. Then we've got the 1 and the 1A, 3, 5. Race 9, we got the 5 horse singled. Race 10, 2, 5, 8. Race 11, 1, 5, 9. Total ticket cost is $54. I don't really like the structure of my ticket. I don't like going kind of 3 deep in every leg and with one single. Usually I'd like to do 1 or 2 singles with one leg deeper and another leg kind of only 2 deep. But this is how we figured it out today. So best of luck to everyone following along at Keeneland this weekend. Make sure to follow me at Horse Guy Mike. Follow along at Trusted Profits. Comment below. Who's your top pick in this sequence? Do you think we're going to see a Derby horse win this weekend at Keeneland? Just comment below who your top Derby pick is so far. How'd you do at Gulfstream and Keeneland so far this year? All right. Good luck, everyone.